Spurs. Let's talk about Spurs because Tottenham fans are in a fascinating place right now. On one hand, they're extremely exhausted, but on the other hand, they're still weirdly ambitious about being ambitious. Because, Spurs fans talk about philosophy and long-term identity and playing out from the back. And honestly, it's like a conversation about which wine pairs with your dinner when you're eating microwave noodles in your sweatpants. It's a perfect cocktail of emotional fatigue and absolute delusion. They talk like they're a big club, philosophy, identity, long-term projects, but react like a mid-table club every time something goes wrong. It's like saying, I just want to enjoy football again, and then writing a 600-word match essay thread in 12 minutes. Every Spurs managerial debate goes a little something like, we don't want results, we want an idea. They keep insisting they're a big club because of potential. Spurs fans want to be treated like big kids, but they react like high schoolers anytime something goes wrong. Big clubs look at being this far down the table and say, this ends now. And Spurs look at it and say, let's contextualize. At least we won the second competition in Europe last year. Like, what, bro? You don't just get credit for trying at big clubs. Spurs are like the guy in the movie that you're pretty sure doesn't matter, and then they keep cutting back to him, only for the movie to end, and for you to be like, yeah, that guy didn't matter. And that's why the managerial conversation at Spurs is always hilarious. Because they don't ask, will he win trophies? They ask, does he fit our philosophy? But here's the thing. What philosophy? If you go to the Come On You Spurs subreddit, the philosophy seems to be whatever gets us to stop arguing until the next kickoff. Because Spurs fans don't define their philosophy by what they are. They define it by what they're tired of being. Seriously, their philosophy changes more than the pinned post on coys. And it's basically just a list of things that Spurs fans are emotionally done with. The debate on Thomas Frank tells you everything. The big clubs argue about, can he win the Champions League or at least get us and keep us there? Spurs argue about, will he keep us respectable and fun? We just want to enjoy football again. It's not a big club conversation. That's emotional fatigue. It's what you say when you've quietly given up on life, much less winning anything. And here's the uncomfortable thing for Spurs fans is Enzo Maresca actually makes sense at Tottenham. And not because Spurs are a big club, but because they're a development club pretending to be a big one. Maresca thrives with young squads and instruction and control. He's not vibes, he's not chaos, he's rigid, positional, and methodical. And Spurs love talking about philosophy like it's a personality trait. Maresca actually teaches one. Maresca's football is slow and structured and suffocating possession and inverted fullbacks and midfield overloads and players standing in very specific zones. Spurs already have players who can do that. And what they don't have is the emotional discipline to sit through 6 months of boredom. Maresca is at his best when pressure is managed, not maximal. He's a make this coherent manager. That's exactly what Spurs need, which is why Maresca at Spurs makes perfect sense. But Spurs love the idea of patience. They just hate the actual experience of it. That's why it would never work. They'd hire him for the philosophy and sack him for the results. They love the concept and panic at the execution. The mentality around Spurs supporters seems to be, I just want to enjoy football again. And that's not anger. It's resignation. It's like realizing you're aging when you go from, I want it all, to, I just want things to stop getting worse. But here's the hard truth that Spurs fans won't want to hear is they could hire Maresca. They could even hire the most perfect manager ever made. But it wouldn't matter. Because Spurs don't have a football problem. They have an identity problem. They want big club respect without big club consequences. They want ambition without discomfort. They want trophies without having to go through the hard, ugly part that it takes to get there. Tottenham or Kendall Roy, constantly talking about taking over the company, never actually running the company. Elite stadiums, beautiful branding, but mid-table software, and a board meeting every week about vision. Unlike today's sponsor, Abe XP, a better experience platform. If you're a live event producer, creator, touring artist, or brand trying to maximize your presence, Abe XP is a tool you need to know about. They're building a next-gen event management and presence management software that helps you keep everything in one place. Right now, they're in beta, so we can't say too much, but check it out on their website, www.abexp.com. It's designed for creators and producers who want better control, cleaner workflows, smarter event execution, especially in the live event management space. So if you want to keep your events running smoother, your audience is happier, and your brand presence stronger, go to abexp.com. As for Spurs, they're going to be Spurs. Nothing will change. Spurs fans are going to be wishing for a better experience. And we're all going to enjoy watching the meltdown on the coys subreddit, where they'll promise everything, deliver nothing, and be genuinely shocked and surprised when it doesn't work. All right. Thank you. Abe here. Abe XP. Follow, like, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A lot of trash talking to come about your team and my team and everybody's team, because that's what we do.